Well, it looks like we're not going to be permitted even one layup within our division this year, huh? We were promised two, and we're not even going to get one. Although, that being said, again, not the worst result when you consider this upcoming draft class. What's up, guys? Good afternoon. We've got one more division rival to look at here, and this is kind of the best of the three, right? This is the one we feel the best about right now. Although, it's not going exactly the way I expected. The 2023 Arizona Cardinals are kind of like that Suicide Squad movie that came out in 2016, the one with Jared Leto. It's bad, like they're bad, but not as bad as I thought it was going to be, right? I thought the Cardinals had worst team in the league on lockdown. Everything was just set up for some epically awful team that would struggle to win two games. I think I had them at 3-14 in my season prediction, and I felt like I might have been excessive. I felt like maybe 2-15 would have been better, but through 5 games, Cardinals already have a win, and they got it against a team that you never would have thought they would have been able to get it against, and they've been competitive by and large. This is another team that, even when they lose, they don't look like an embarrassment. There are teams in the NFL right now that look like an embarrassment. Teams like the Patriots, teams like the Giants. To a certain extent, you can say the Bears. I know the Bears just won a game, but overall, they've been kind of an embarrassment. The Broncos are an embarrassment. The Cardinals are not really one of those teams. Um, Again, I don't totally get how this is happening with this roster and this coaching staff because, unlike the Rams, I look at the Rams and I can kind of go, okay, I can galaxy brain my way into figuring this one out. The Rams have a really good coach in Sean McVay, and they did get their veteran, established, quality quarterback back. Even though he's not even playing that well, he's playing well enough for them to at least be something. Okay, I can figure that out a little bit. The Cardinals do not have their quarterback back. He's still out. He hasn't played a snap this year. And they have the most obvious coaching stiff of, well, I can't say the last decade because Nathaniel Hackett to me was very obviously a stiff. And that was just a year ago, but a very obvious bad coach candidate in Jonathan Gannon. Everything was just coming together beautifully for this team to be awful in 2023, and they're not. And I guess maybe Jonathan Gannon might end up being a little bit more of a credible coach than I was thinking initially going into this season. I don't want to give him a lot of credit because the Cardinals' defense has still been bad. It's still a bottom 5, bottom 6 defense. Their offense is the main reason why they're competitive. Their offense has been approximately average. But honestly, you take a look at the schedule so far, they've been getting lit up by good offenses the last couple weeks. The Niners put 35. The Bengals, who, by the way, you got to say the Bengals' offense is elite now because they've got Burrow back, put up 34. Before then, they were playing okay on defense. They played really well against Dallas. They played well against the Commanders. Now, the Giants, the second half kind of got out of hand, but they were playing great for the first 35 minutes or so. They played a great first 35 minutes. And again, from this roster, getting 3.5 minutes would be impressive out of him. Getting a good 3.5 minutes would be nice, but he got a good 35 minutes out of him. So I was like, okay, they're going in the right direction here. They got some good stuff going, and then they run into two really good offenses and they get blasted a little bit. So this is a team that, big picture, they're still bad, of course. They're 1-4. They're basically out of it. Like there's no, unlike the Rams, you can't talk about the playoffs with the Cardinals, right? You can't really talk about the playoffs when it comes to the Cardinals. Their defense is still on the whole bad, no matter how you can dress that statement up a little bit, but it's a bad defense. Their pass game offense is workable, but it's not good. Like Josh Dobbs is playing passable football. He has some good moments. He makes some good plays, but he's not really a good quarterback, and it's not a good passing offense. Although Michael Wilson has been good so far, which I was thinking he was going to be a project. I will say this, that offense is scoring on a very high percentage of their drives. So again, this is another team that is kind of maximizing their potential by finishing drives well. And the strength of this team, the obvious strength of this team is their rushing attack. And that is the thing that I think is making them so surprisingly competent. This Arizona offense has been keeping their head above water largely because of James Conner, who is off to an incredible start to the season. 5.4 yards a carry. He's hurt now, by the way, so if that completely derails their season the rest of the way, and they do become that awful team we thought they were going to be, then yeah, James Conner was definitely the big linchpin there. And they're doing some really fun stuff with like Rondell Moore on end arounds and stuff as well. So you put it all together with a quarterback that can run a little bit. Joshua Dobbs has been using his legs to some degree of success. You've got a workable NFL offense. And you've got something that can kind of work. So, in kind of a throwback to the 1990s, the running game is making this go. So, again, it's not a good offense. It's not. There's no universe where this is a good offense, but when they announced they were going to be starting Joshua Dobbs, who they traded for right before the season started, and they were sticking it out with James Conner, who I thought was washed up after last season, and you looked at their interior offensive line, I thought it was going to be one of the worst offenses in the league, and it's not. And here's the thing. Kind of like the 49ers, the Cardinals' offensive line is not really that good. Their tackles, according to PFF, are not playing that well. Obviously, Paris Johnson Jr. is a rookie. You don't expect great things, but he's not playing that well. They've got Will Hernandez at right guard. He's doing good, but their interior of the offensive line is still not good. And it's not really affecting them that much. Josh Dobbs has been sacked 9 times in 5 games. That's nothing. Less than 2 sacks a game on Josh Dobbs. That's fine. And James Conner's running all over teams. So the bad offensive line is not hindering them that much. So I guess we got to give it up to the coaches in Arizona as well for finding a way to game plan around that. So defensively, this is where the Cardinals really fall off. They don't have a good defense, although they did play some good games. They had some good moments. And there are some positive things to talk about here. I do think when they start playing some weaker offenses, they might kind of get back to a below average to maybe even average level. But here's the thing. They're doing this without Budda Baker. Going into the season, you would have thought Budda Baker is going to be their best player by far. And if they do anything, it'll be because of him. He missed every game but one. And they have a lot of bad players on this defense. You can see the PFF scores here. They're good players. I mean, Dimu Keji on the edge has actually been their highest graded defensive player. I don't even know who that is. Hamilton has been a good cornerback for them. Dennis Gardek has been good off the bench. He's got 4 sacks already, so he's been good rushing the passer off the bench. But that's about where it ends. Zaven Collins isn't breaking out. They gave away Simmons to the Giants before the season started. He's not breaking out. Defensive line's a disaster. Remember, their 2 best players last year were Zach Allen and J.J. Watt, and they lost both. Marco Wilson has been a colossal disappointment for them. They used a mid-round pick on him, I think, and he hasn't been living up to that. So, yeah, it is a bad defense, and this is where you look at Jonathan Gannon and you go, obviously he's not working with a lot, but you can't yet say that he's a good coach. But here, the thing is, he's getting these guys up to play every week, it feels like. He's getting these guys up to play for pretty much every game. And that's more than I could have suspected from him before we went into the season. I thought that he was going to be a Nathaniel Hackett, Bobby Petrino level disaster. He has not been. In fact, I even think we can kind of cross him off the one and done list unless things go really bad from here. Of course, that's still possible. You look at the remaining schedule. If they lose James Conner, who has been their best player so far this year, I mean, they don't play any super weaklings until they get to the Bears in late December. In late December, they get the Bears, and that's the only, like, really soft team they have the rest of the way, right? Like, they got the Rams twice. The Rams are playing good enough to where we can kind of pencil them in for a win there. They still got to play Seattle twice. Baltimore, I'm not impressed with them, but they're not bad. Cleveland, that defense alone should get them the win. I guess Atlanta maybe, but honestly, Atlanta at this point, you got to give them some credit for doing some things right. So this could be a scenario where Arizona plays tough every single game, like every game is at least competitive, but they don't win games. So this could be kind of the perfect scenario for Arizona, where they still end up in line to get either Caleb Williams or the draft haul you get for Caleb Williams because he refuses to play for your poverty organization. Like they could end up getting like 3 firsts and 3 seconds or something crazy for Caleb. And it's not as good as Caleb, but it's pretty dang good. So they could accomplish that despite not having a poverty embarrassing organization. So that's like the perfect scenario. Like a lot of Cardinals fans probably want to tank. A lot of Cardinals fans are probably thinking, look, Kyler's not it. I want Caleb. I want Drake May. I want this guy. I want that guy. I want to be bad. But if we could at least make the games watchable, that'd be nice. And these games are very watchable so far. So I'm a little worried that this Cardinals team shows signs of life, but still loses like almost all their games. Like you look at this schedule, they beat the Bears, maybe, and they beat, let's say, the Texans. That gets them to 3-14. That would get them in line for a top pick, no problem. And they could get there while still looking like a reasonably competitive team. So I'm a little bit worried that these guys are going to end up kind of threading the needle perfectly where they have an awful record, but it's not an awful team. But hey, we'll see where this goes. They did beat the Cowboys. They beat the Cowboys, and they kind of beat them down. So maybe they're going to beat a team like Pittsburgh. Maybe they beat a team like Baltimore or Cleveland. Maybe they beat a team like, I'm not going to say San Fran or Philly. That's just goofy. But they could beat some teams that are a little bit better, that are, well, a lot better. So we're going to have to see where this goes. But I think the Cardinals have a lot to be proud of so far this year. So yeah, that's a look at all 3 of our division rivals. It's not what we were hoping for. I'm going to just go ahead and say that right now. Big picture wise, we thought the Niners might be headed towards a little bit of a down season. They're having the best start to a season they've ever had in the Shanahan era, I think. I think this is better than 2019. We wanted the Rams to be awful. They're decent, although that at least removes the Caleb Williams concerns, I guess. And the Cardinals, who we thought were going to be awful, are just kind of bad. And again, that's not a bad outcome if they actually win some of these games, but you look at their schedule, they could end up 2-15 without even being that bad. And that's the scenario I don't want. I don't want a Cardinals team feeling decent about themselves, still getting the opportunity to get that pot of gold at the end of the draft rainbow. All right, so that's my look at the division rivals. I'm going to get out of here. Thanks for watching. Go Hawks. Very soon here, we'll be back into regularly scheduled programming because we'll actually have some Seahawks stuff to go into going forward. But let me know what you guys think. This is not the division that we bargained for. I thought this division was going to be super soft this year, and it actually looks like a pretty decent one. It's not the best division, the way it's been in some previous years, but this is not what I signed up for. I'll put it that way. All right, catch you guys later. Go Hawks.